Time for the Midday News here on Newstalk 93 FM. I'm Errol Lee. Coming up in this newscast, Parliament approves amendments to the Weights and Measures Act. Nurses Association to discuss latest wage talk developments in emergency meeting tomorrow. Both PNP and JLP set September deadline for candidate selection. Former JLP councillor for the Castleton Division in St Mary, Don Creary, being questioned by the police on rape allegations. Now the details. Business owners will soon be required to ensure that they trade only using the metric system in order to avoid paying considerable fines. It follows yesterday's move by the House of Representatives to amend the Weights and Measures Act. Industry, Investment and Commerce Minister Anthony Hilton says it is essential that the country has a proper functioning regime for measurement, as this is one of the factors that will ensure continuation of economic growth.
The sales of products or services, Mr. Speaker, that are impacted by the Weights and Measures Act account for a significant percentage of our gross domestic product. Industry sectors that are potentially affected by our Weights and Measures regime include retail food sales, other retail sales, petroleum products, transportation, chemicals, and electricity. To repeat, Mr. Speaker, developing and enforcing strong metrology standards is therefore essential to ensuring the vitality of trade and commerce, and is ultimately critical to the development of industry.
Hilton says the country must ensure that there is uniformity in the laws, regulations and standards that govern weights and measures to achieve equity between buyers and sellers in the marketplace. Hilton says the bill seeks to amend the Act to provide for an increase in fines to a sum of $1 million for breaches of the law.
The regulation, Mr. Speaker, is amended to reflect an increase in the fine from $2,000 to $1 million where a person imports into Jamaica any weighing or measuring equipment without the approval of the Bureau of Standards in writing, or where a person has in his possession for use or purpose of trade any weighing or measuring equipment unit that is not specified in the Act. Subsection 3 of the Amendment of Regulation 15 of the Weights and Measures Act, which addresses the petroleum and fuel oil trade regulations of 2004. This amendment, Mr. Speaker, seeks to provide for an increase in the fine from $2,000 to $1 million, where a person violates any provisions of this Act or under this regulation dealing with the petroleum and oil fuel for trade.
Industry, Investment and Commerce Minister Anthony Hilton. He says the amendment to the bill seeks to deter offenders and ensures that consumers are protected and are given a high standard of consistent service. Hilton says given the substantial increase in the fines, both the Bureau of Standards and the Consumer Affairs Commission will be directed to carry out an appropriate education campaign aimed at informing the public of these important and significant changes. The Nurses Association of Jamaica, the NAJ, which represents the island's nurses, has summoned delegates to an emergency meeting tomorrow to discuss the latest development in wage negotiations with government. The meeting is scheduled for 10:30 a.m. at its head office in Kingston. The emergency meeting follows talks with officials from the Finance Ministry yesterday. NAJ President Janet Korfar says the nurses are aware that government will not be increasing its 7% wage offer. She says it is likely that the nurses will vote to accept what's on the table. Korfar says the meeting tomorrow is to facilitate discussion on other fringe benefits and to decide on whether they can reach common ground with what they want and what the government is offering. Several other groups of public sector workers have already agreed to and signed off on the government's 7% wage offer. Nurses and the police are among the public sector groups which have not yet stated their acceptance of the offer. Chairman of the Board of the National Solid Waste Agency, the NSWMA, Dennis Chung, is decrying a shortage of equipment and trucks for garbage collection affecting the work of the entity.
Within the NSWMA and also the private sector, there is a shortage of compactors, number one, but also number two, there's an aging problem with compactors. So one of the things that we want to do is see how we can supplement the fleet with some new trucks so that we can meet the schedule that we put out.
Chung, who is also at the same time, Chung says the focus is not only to look at purchasing more trucks for the NSWMA, but rather to look at the broader issues affecting the agency.
The focus really should be more than just looking at the actual purchase, but rather, what the status is. The fact of the matter is that the NSWMA, we do have some systems in place where we're putting the schedules in place, and one of the things that we're going to be doing pretty soon is actually publishing the schedules that the public can hold us accountable for based on our response.
Chung, who's also executive director of the PSLJ, adds that his team has identified some additional problems plaguing the NSWMA, and they're working to address them.
We had a meeting about 2 days ago with the regional offices, and we do recognize that there are some backlog in some of the areas, particularly southern parks and markets. That situation is being addressed right now. As a matter of fact, from yesterday, sent some additional trucks down there. But what is happening to us is that because of the age of the truck, lots of them are breaking down, and some of them that were bought, we have some maintenance issues with them. So they really, irrespective of how much we want to go out and collect the garbage, if you don't have truck, you're going to have a problem.
Chairman of the Board of the National Solid Waste Agency, the NSWMA, Dennis Chung, speaking on Fresh Start this morning. You're listening to news on Newstalk 93 FM. It's 8 minutes after 12. The governing People's National Party, PNP, has announced that its Executive Council, NEC, will meet on September 27 for a final decision on all candidates. The party is in the final phase of the candidate selection exercise, including East Portland, where Dr. Linvale Bloomfield, the sitting MP, was defeated for the post of constituency chairman on Sunday by attorney Andrea Moore. A decision has not yet been made on who will be the PNP's standard bearer in the constituency. PNP General Secretary Paul Burke says the party's executive has received the report of the outcome of the selection. However, they'll have to wait for the NEC's decision. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Labour Party has also set September 27 for the deadline to sign off on its slate of candidates. JLP General Secretary Dr. Horace Chang says among the vacancies to be filled are St. Catherine Northeast and St. Catherine West Central. This follows the move by delegates in West Central to send a petition to the JLP leadership calling for a completion of the process to find a candidate for the upcoming general election. The candidate selection was put on hold 2 weeks ago by the JLP Secretariat. Chairman of the Internal and External Affairs Committee of Parliament, Member of Parliament Derek Smith, has castigated founder of Hear the Children's Cry, Betty Ann Blaine, for her criticism of the parliamentary group reviewing a disclosure motion relating to civil society groups. In his opening comments at yesterday's sitting, Smith said he found disturbing a local newspaper article by Blaine. In the commentary, Blaine asserted that there seems to be a campaign to harass non-governmental organizations. She argued that it appeared odd and hypocritical that politicians opposed to any disclosure of their financial backers would be the ones calling for NGOs to do what they have refused to do for so long. However, Smith said Blaine seemed to have arrived at a conclusion on the parliamentary deliberations which were still taking place. He argued that his committee had no hidden agenda, but was given the task to review the private member's motion moved by Member of Parliament for North East St. Elizabeth Raymond Price. The motion called for civil society groups to be registered and to disclose the names of persons who donate funds to them. Smith said the committee was discussing the motion with an open mind and would submit a report to the House of Representatives at the end of its deliberations. A 2-year-old child from St. Thomas, whose family had reported him missing, was found dead yesterday. Dead is Paul Saxton of Cedar Grove Lane, White Horses, in St. Thomas. Reports are that at about 9 a.m., family members noticed that Paul was missing and began searching for him. They also filed a missing persons report with the police. At about 11 a.m., Paul's mother found him motionless on the back seat of a car which was parked in the yard. He was rushed to the Princess Margaret Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The police say there's no evidence of foul play. Former JLP councillor for the Castleton Division in St. Mary, Don Creary, is now being questioned by the police on rape allegations. It's understood that Creary is at the Kingston offices of the Center for the Investigation of Sexual Offences and Child Abuse, CISOCA. He's being questioned in the presence of his lawyer, Tom Tavares Finson, and Nadine Atkinson Flowers. Creary was councillor for the Castleton Division from 2003 to 2007. The theft of livestock and agricultural produce has continued on a downward trend. The latest police crime statistics are showing 58 fewer cases of predial larceny so far in 2015. The figures show that there were 144 such cases up to September 5. This represents an improvement over the 202 cases recorded for the same period last year. The crime figures also highlight that the cases so far this year continue on an improvement over the last 3 years. For the similar period under review in 2013, there were 218 cases of predial larceny. 196 cases were recorded in 2012. A team of officers seized 1 firearm and 17 rounds of ammunition at premises in Tweedside District in Clarendon during an operation yesterday. Reports from the Spalding Police are that at about 10:20 p.m., lawmen were in the area when they saw a man sitting in a bar. On seeing the police, he threw an object in a waste bin. It was retrieved and found to be one Glock 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 17 rounds of ammunition. The man was subsequently taken into custody. However, his identity is being withheld pending further investigations. In news from the region, Faris Al-Rawi, who convincingly won the San Fernando West seat in Trinidad, is tipped to become the new Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. By 1:30 p.m. today, Trinidad and Tobago will have a new government as President Anthony Carmona will swear in Dr. Keith Rowley as the 7th Prime Minister of TNT and also swear in a new Attorney General. This follows Rowley's party's 23-18 victory in the polls on Monday. The PNM won the election, defeating the Coalition People's Partnership PP of Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar that had come to power in 2010. After he and his cabinet members are sworn in, it is expected that the focus will be commencement of the 11th Parliament, followed by the presentation of a budget, which has to be passed by both houses by October 31. News further afield, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has announced plans that he says will offer a swift, determined and comprehensive response to Europe's migrant crisis. Under the proposals, 120,000 additional asylum seekers will be distributed among EU nations with binding quotas. It comes after a surge of thousands of mainly Syrian migrants pushed north through Europe in recent days. Germany, the main destination for many migrants, supports quotas, but some EU countries oppose a compulsory system. And Syrian rebels linked to al-Qaeda have seized control of a key airbase in the northwestern province of Idlib after a 2-year siege. Abu al-Duhar airbase was the final regime position in the province, which is now held almost entirely by the rebels. The militants behind the attack are believed to be a coalition of Islamist groups, including the Al-Nusra Front. Their capture of the base was helped by dust storms in the region, which hampered Syria's air force. That's news. Now let's look at the weather. There is a tropical wave just west of Jamaica. This tropical wave is expected to continue moving towards the west. For the rest of this afternoon, expect isolated showers and thunderstorms across southern parishes and the hilly areas of other parishes. Tonight, it will be mainly fair. To end the news, the main points. Parliament approves amendments to the Weights and Measures Act. Nurses Association of Jamaica to discuss latest wage talk developments in emergency meeting tomorrow. PNP and JLP set September deadline for candidate selection. And former JLP councillor for the Castleton Division in St. Mary, Don Crary, is being questioned by the police on rape allegations. That's the Midday News right here on Newstalk 93 FM. I'm Errol Lee. Stand by for the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newstalk 93 FM now gear the news in the Jamaican language.
Good afternoon. My name is Kadeen Marshall, and this is the news in the Jamaican language. People who own business soon have got share using under the metric system. This have to make sure so them not pay extra tax. The metric system measure things based on meter, liter, and gram. Yesterday, the House of Representatives made some changes to the Weight and Measures Act. According to Anthony Hilton, who is the Minister for Commerce, it's important for the country to have a proper measurement system, as these are one of the things that can make the country grow. He said the country must make sure that people are follow the law and ensure that the business people them are do the right thing so that fairness can go on between people who buy and sell in the marketplace. The People National Party PNP are considered if they must pick Violet Davis, the wife of one-time heavyweight boxing champion Lennox Lewis, for took over for Dr. D.K. Duncan as the candidate for Eastern Hanover. Duncan left the work one day as chairman for Eastern Hanover. Some reporters said the PNP might have picked Lewis, Leonard Green, or Gary Whitaker as candidate for the seat. Duncan Ben beat the JLP Paula Kerr-Jarrett in the seat in the 2011 general election by 264 votes. Jarrett left the work as caretaker, and Dave Brown are run for the JLP. The police in St. Elizabeth are make some arrangement for people point out Constable O'Shane Anderson, what them charged because him been and try rob one businessman outside of one NCB bank in a Black River. Them now looking at some other case, so them claims that him being involved in a 4 other robbery in the parish. Constable Anderson being getting shot in his knee and him still in a hospital. Some report as the investigator them have to use video identification because the policeman can't walk right now. News from the rest of the Caribbean. Dr. Keith Rowley has put on Pan Bible and said he will do the work as Prime Minister for Trinidad and Tobago today. This come after him party 23-18 victory in the election Monday gone. The PNM beat the Coalition People Partnership PP, where Kamala Prasad Bisesa been a run. After them swearing in cabinet member them are focus on the budget where after pass in the lower and upper house by October 31st. News from foreign. The head of the pro-Kurdish opposition HDP party in Turkey has said the government has planned some attack in the country for kill off some people and cause one war in the country. Nobody not dead yet, but the opposition said the government want to kill off some people. War are going between the army and the militant Kurdish PKK since them peace deal mash up in July. Turkey will keep election in November after the poll never said which party win the election in June. My name is Kadeen Marshall, and that's the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newstalk 93 FM just get the news in the Jamaican language.
The Midday Sports Report is brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing sports radio.
Good afternoon. I am Michael Drummer Johns with your Midday Sports Report here on Newstalk 93 FM, and we begin with football. The Reggae Boys last night returned the favor of a home defeat to Nicaragua as the two contested the return leg of their World Cup qualifying game. Heading into the game on the back of a 3-2 loss, the boys earned a 2-0 win to advance 4-3 on aggregate. It was a nail-biting finish as the visitors were leading by a mere 1 goal until a substitute Simon Dawkins netted a volley 1 minute before the end of regular time. The lead had been earned early with a 13th minute netting courtesy of Darren Mattox. With the win, the boys now advance to the fourth round of the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying phase. They will join Costa Rica and Panama in Group B, as well as the winner of the third round tie between Haiti and Grenada. Haiti lead the tie 3-1 after handing Grenada a home leg first defeat. And yesterday's Western Sports-sponsored football competition saw UA Workers fall 3-0 to Petrojam in Division 1 action, while Grace Kennedy clipped Jamaica Customs 2-1. Grace Kennedy are one of 4 semi-finalists and will meet Scotiabank. Meanwhile, the other semi-final will see Metrodate Protection and Security Limited meet Petrojam. They are scheduled for this Saturday at venues to be announced. Meanwhile, in Europe, England yesterday recorded a 2-0 victory against Switzerland as they played their 2016 Euro qualifier. The second goal, which came from the spot, was converted by Wayne Rooney, making him England's all-time record goal scorer with 50 nettings. The 3 points put the English clear at the top of Group A. Meanwhile, in other games, Austria beat Sweden 4-1, Spain clipped Macedonia 1-0, and Belarus also recorded a 2-0 win playing Luxembourg. Taking a look at track and field, yesterday former world record holder Safa Powell won the 100 meters at the RWF World Challenge meeting in Zagreb, Croatia, with a time of 9.96 seconds, while the women's equivalent had Simone Facey relegated to third in 11.25 seconds. Her compatriot Sharon Simpson was meanwhile fifth, with a time of 11.37 seconds. In other events, Novlene Williams-Mills posted 51.81 seconds for third in the 400 meters, and Andrew Riley was also third in his event, the men's 110 meters hurdles, posting a time of 13.52 seconds. Action in the field meanwhile saw Adane Richards playing runner-up in the shot put with a heave of 21.29 meters. Quick look at cricket. England yesterday avoided a one-day international ODI series loss versus Australia after earning a 93-run win in their third ODI. England put up 300 runs for the loss of 8 wickets before restricting their visitors to 207 runs with 36 balls remaining. And in tennis, the Williams sisters last night met in a US Open quarterfinal, which saw Serena walking away the winner. It was a 3-set encounter, which saw Venus winning the second set 6-1 after having lost the first 6-2. However, Serena came back to win the third set 6-3. Therefore, the scores for Serena were 6-2, 1-6, 6-3. Meanwhile, US Open defending champion Marin Cilic also withstood a surge by Wilfred Tsonga to advance to the semi-finals. It was a 5-set encounter between the defending champion and Tsonga. And that's it for the Midday Sports Report here on Newstalk 93 FM. I am Mikhail Drama Johns, wishing you a good afternoon.
That was your Midday Sports Report, brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing radio.